As boomers, many of us were brought up with the concept that we're going to work until 65 or at least some sort of retirement time, and then we're going to tell the boss to get lost, throw in the towel, and retire and live happily ever after. Unfortunately, we never had financial classes that actually taught us how to prepare for that event. And the next generation or two, I think two down, has actually figured out a different meme. We've gone from financial independence to financial independence, retire early, faced with the conflict of you only live once. Which are you going to do? My name's Don Creech.
And I'm Perry Sykes, and welcome to the Investor Resources Podcast.
So apparently this is part of the conflict for new generations. Not the conflict between generations, but they turn around, and there's some justification for this. They turn around and they look at the mortgage market today and say, I can't afford a house. I don't think I can afford a family. If I can't afford a house, where am I going to put the kids? I want to have kids. I'm really frustrated. So what's happening is that a lot of younger people are spending their money on entertainment events. Make memories while you can. Don't get old like grandma in a wheelchair, my wife. I mean, it's really hard to travel anywhere, much less go see the grandkids.
Right.
So let's spend the money now as though we had won the lottery and do something that we can fill our phone up with photographic events, as opposed to building financial independence and waiting a time for the same thing to happen, but at a later stage in life. Just exactly how are you going to resolve that conflict? Perry, I'm looking to you for the answer.
It's a real one, and especially with the younger folks these days, the you only live once attitude is pervasive, and it's like that's a really good idea. Work hard, save money your entire life, and then maybe sometime later you'll get a chance to do something you like. It's like, nope, do it now, do it when you're young, and then deal with what comes up later. You got plenty of time later, which no one knows. No one knows how much time you have later. That's the biggest unknown. So to say, well, no, I'll just fix all this stuff down the road. Sometimes you just literally do not have time, and some things you need to take care of as you go along, and it's just a matter of adequate self-preservation. That's risk management in a nutshell. It's like, yep, you can live life backwards if you want to, and you can, when you're younger, you can spend every dime you make and then assume, well, I'll make more money later, and that'll be my retirement funds. I'll fill that up later. Doesn't always happen that way. And you need to think about that. And sometimes time is your best friend. And some people have decided, well, then the best way to avoid the problems with the crazy stock market is just find those high yield returns, pay for them, buy them, and then sock those things away. Or if you're looking for money just to spend, buy the yield and then just spend it as it comes in. Problem, of course, is those high yield investments don't usually, on balance, do as good a job as if you had longer term equity returns in that same portfolio. So you're actually shooting yourself in the foot and feeling like you're doing something that's safer, but it's not really.
Well, there's an opportunity everywhere you look, particularly the younger generation spends a lot of time on social media. And there are plenty of gurus on social media platforms, X and Reddit, and I mean, I'm not on them, so I can't list a whole bunch of them off the tip of my tongue.
Go ahead. Yeah, we get it. So, yeah.
The objective is you want to invest and get some income now. We can generate that for you. And the financial services industry is always an opportunistic industry. And if there's a demand for something in the marketplace, they will create it if it does not exist. And that is happening in spades today. We turn around and take a look at what's going on with the options market, and there are, without having to search too far, you can find somebody who will guide you through the zero date option strategy, where some investors, they're only investing for the day. They're not investing overnight. Some of them are in and out of trades within seconds. Do they know what they're doing? As a general rule, no, because generally they are undercapitalized. They have very little money involved. With options, you don't need a lot of money. And they don't know what they're doing. They're relying on a hot tip from somebody online whom they do not know. They have no personal relationship with them. So the only thing there is their claim to fame, and the person's bought into it. On the other side of the equation, Wall Street will build something else. If you don't want to do 0-day options yourself, you can buy an exchange traded fund. There are now more exchange traded funds than there are stocks on the stock exchange. And most of them come not with something new, but with a twist to something old. So you could still get it in an older format with lower fees and lower risk, but the front page of the advertisement isn't nearly as enticing as the one.
It won't say new and improved anywhere. Yeah, you won't get the new and improved one. And they said there's been over 600 new ETFs brought to market this year. So they're just coming out in waves, and there's a lot of them that are leveraged. So they're higher risk, and they will not stop. Like you said, Don, Wall Street is opportunistic in the extreme, and they will create the demand and then create the product to fill it. They will convince you this is something you need, and then they will sell it to you. And boy, you need to be careful with that. And it doesn't matter if it's high yield or not. If it's a product produced on Wall Street, it's the best person. I mean, the person that's going to work out best for is probably somebody on Wall Street. Be very careful. Make sure it's something that even has the possibility of working out well for you, and don't just take the salesperson's opinion on, yep, this is the best thing for you. It's probably not.
Well, as financial advisors, we have these solicitations all the time. I did a CE course recently and basically said, here's how you present this to your clients to fill a need, which they may not have understood they had, in parentheses. But the question has to be asked, why are they doing this? Why is Wall Street doing this? Well, for decades, many decades, we have to go back to the late 1960s, I think 1968 or 69, when John Bogle at Vanguard introduced the no-load mutual fund in an environment where all mutual funds had an 8.5% sales charge on your first dollar that you put in. And for those of you in younger generations, you say 8.5%. Who would be crazy to do that? Well, that's the way it was sold.
Everybody, yeah.
And so in Vanguard, and this was in the midst of a bear market, a nasty bear market in 1969-70. And he said, nobody's buying funds. We're just going to change. And we're going to make this a no-load product, reduce our fees, eliminate the sales charge. And he was criticized broadly throughout the industry, saying nobody will buy a mutual fund without a salesman to help them. That accelerated until commissions were deregulated in the mid-70s, and Charles Schwab left Merrill Lynch to create the Charles Schwab and Company on a discount brokerage basis, which he was criticized for and laughed at.
It was another crazy guy. Yeah.
Well, he's the one who's laughing now. The point here is that there has been a fee compression process that started with Vanguard back in the late 60s, which has driven fees down for the average investor. That's a benefit. When you turn around and take a look at Charles Schwab's broad market fund, ticker's SCHB as in Baker, or broad market, the fee is 3 cents per dollar. I mean, on $10,000 a year, they get $30. On $10,000, you used to have to pay $895 to make the same investment. That's a benefit for everybody in the industry.
Yep.
So now if advisors are working on next to nothing. Advisory firms are working on next to nothing, and they want to make more revenue. What do? Well, they create a product that is exempt from that fee pressure by putting a twist on something old, and it comes to market. And there you have the making of what you just referred to as more than 600 new exchange traded funds just this year, 2025. Because it's good for Wall Street doesn't mean it's good for you. Fees are the driver for all these new quasi-innovative products, alternatives. The issue is, do you know what you're doing? Do you actually know how to trade stocks or pick a mutual fund or an exchange traded fund? Do you know how to build a portfolio? And if you don't, are you convinced that your financial advisor isn't just giving you Wall Street's line? Well, you've got to make some hard decisions here. You got to get smart pretty fast. If you don't know the answers to all those in the affirmative to your benefit, time is running out. It's time.
Right, and that's a question you need to ask. I mean, seriously, when someone is pitching something like some, wingnut, high yielding product, which seems to you very expensive, and you're not exactly sure how you'd ever make your money back out of this thing, trust yourself and say, hey, you know what? That's probably accurate. This is not a good idea. They will never tell you that. Those words will never come out of their mouths. It's their job to sell them, not to tell you why it's dangerous, why it's probably not all it's cracked up to be, why there are better, less expensive alternatives. That's not what they're there to do. And that's on you to know. That's on you to know that they're there. They're paid, 100% paid sales force. They're there to sell you stuff. And if we have something brand new and shiny that we just built, we're going to push it like crazy. And until there's enough people out there who've tried it and said, hey, you know what, that really doesn't work very well, we're going to keep selling it. Our goal is not to make sure you're financially independent, is to make sure that our commission levels don't drop. And it's important to understand that's what's going on. They're not doing anything illegal. They're telling you right up front, this is what we're doing. And you need to understand that when you sit down at that desk.
So you just mentioned commissions a lot of times, and here's the question for you as somebody who's listening to our podcast is, how do I figure this out? That's a legitimate question. So the question that you need to ask is, as I deal with you in every situation, are you acting as a fiduciary for my benefit? And sit still and wait for the answer, and it better not be hedged. So here's what typically is happening. Well, we don't work for commissions. We can work on a fee basis for you. Well, the fact that they're charging you a fee based on assets under management or an hourly fee doesn't necessarily mean they are a fiduciary. If they're working for a major firm, they are an employee of that firm, and therefore a fiduciary relationship exists with their employer, and that's not you. So you need to clarify, is there any fiduciary relationship you have elsewhere that's going to interfere with my relationship with you? And of course, they're going to do their best to hedge that question. But if they're working for an insurance company or a Wall Street brokerage firm, that's their employer, not you. You are a client of the firm, and you are not the sole employer in the engagement that you're looking at. You got to read the document carefully, but that's the real critical issue. In every situation, are you a fiduciary in the advice you are giving to me? Or do you have a relationship with your company which interferes with that overrides that's more important than your relationship with me? And listen carefully for hedged statements. If it's hedged, shop somewhere else.
You don't need to work with a salesperson of any kind. You can do better. We're fiduciary at all times in every client relationship, during the planning stages, the actually deciding what's best for you, during acquisition of said investments. We're acting as fiduciary at all times. That is a very different setup than a paid commission-based salesperson that is only fiduciary part of the time during the planning process, and then at no other part of the fiduciary. And then they try, like you said, Don, they try to hide that as best they can, and not talk about the parts where they're actually not a fiduciary at all. And
Well, you just hit on a very key point, and that is that as certified financial planners, we're required to be fiduciaries during the planning engagement. So
right.
that, and this is where one of the hedges happens, is yes, I'll be a fiduciary while we work out the plan. And now what happens after the plan's done and we actually start making investments? Has the advisor changed hats and switched from fiduciary to company representative? That's frequently the case, and that's where it becomes cloudy in the client's eyes. If you got questions about this, we can answer this in even more detail with you specifically. If you're concerned about the kind of advice you're getting from your financial advisor, or it's the reason, what we just talked about, is the reason you haven't sought one out because you're just not quite sure how to categorize them, give us a call. Send us an email. I mean, we'll be glad to chat with you. It doesn't cost you anything. We pick up the phone. We'll talk to people. The contact information is right there on the screen. Subscribe to our podcast. We've got more information coming in subsequent publications here. Have a great day. Thanks for being with us, and come back soon.